Good evening, everyone. Okay. This we all are concerned about the environment and all this, so waste and recycling plays a big part in it. I know my family and we started recycling long before the city started the recycling program. Used to peel off the labels, bottles and bottles separate, paper separate, plastic separate, and all that. Anyhow, now the city has gone through and they got a wonderful program, and Yanyu is going to tell us all about it. Yanyu she's got a master's degree in China and in Canada, USC. And she's an educator for the Calgary recycling program. And she teaches school children mainly. Now she's going to teach us the older school children. All yours, and you.
Thank you, Tachi. Hello, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for coming here for this presentation tonight, for taking the time and the interest in this topic. So my name is Yanyu, and I'm a waste and recycling educator and working for the city. So today I'm going to introduce or talk about the programs, 3 BEAM programs we have in the waste and recycling services. And from the the early chatter, I'm really happy to hear a lot of you are recyclers and you are already doing your part of the job, because this is really like a joint effort that we all need to put in to make this work. All right, so first I'm gonna introduce you this upside down triangle. Before I enter the presentation, maybe I should mention I'll first do the presentation. It's taking about 45 minutes. Then I will leave the last 15 minutes to take some questions. I know many of you are very eager, and I have actually received a long list of the questions before the presentation. I think most of those questions will be covered in the presentation, but we will have some time in the end to discuss the other questions. Well, coming back to these upside down triangles. So at the bottom of this triangle, there's this gray area. This represents the landfill. And this triangle really represents the strategy of waste and recycling services, how we want to divert the garbage out of the landfill. So we need people to think more about the upper tier of this triangle. So starting from recycle and composting, then we reuse more and reduce more waste, and maybe more innovatively think about how we can rethink and redesign our product so we don't produce as much waste. Then all our efforts actually make a difference. When we look at what we have in our black card in 2007 and 2019, actually the amount of the black card materials have been halved. So we picked these 2 years not for no reason. Actually, 2007 was 2 years before we introduced the blue card program, and 2019 was the 2 years after we introduced the green card program. So we look at these 2 years to look at how blue card program and the green card program are making difference here. So as we still have waste in our black card, where does those waste come from? From what we know, about 1/3 comes from the residential waste. That is the single-family households and the multifamily households. And about 2/3 of the waste come from businesses and organizations, as well as construction and demolishing. So we have different diversion goals for these 4 sectors. Right now, our 3 BEAM programs covered only single-family households. So for other 3 sectors, they have a different system to deal with their waste. Nevertheless, in 2017 and 18, after we introduced the green card program, we actually have passed the bylaws to make sure that all these other sectors are also diverting the waste from the landfill. So that means all the businesses and organizations and condo buildings, they will have to provide means for their residents to divert the waste. All right, so first let's talk about the landfills, the black card. This is the map of Calgary, and at the moment we have 3 landfills are in use. Depending on which part of the city you are living in, your waste will be collected and sent to the nearest landfill. So we have one in the northwest, the Spy Hill in the northwest, and the East Calgary in east, and Shepherd in the southeast. What's not shown in this landfill was the 5 retired landfills. So in the past, we used to build the landfills very far away from the city, but now they are actually, more and more in the middle of the communities. So there's certain things we need to know about landfills. First, it's safe to live near the landfill. That is because all the landfills in Canada are sanitary landfills. They all have engineered system to protect the environment, both for the public health and the environment. So the most precious resources in the planet Earth, for example, the water, that's the #1 priority to protect when we build a landfill. And to build this engineered system is very expensive, and to maintain it is even more expensive. So what happens in the landfill is when the trucks come and dump the garbage, and we have the front load tractors will push the garbage to the top of the hill. We try to build a little hill in every landfill cell. So by doing that, actually, we try to avoid having the pond or a pond of those standing water at the top of the landfill. So we try to let the stormwater run off the landfill so they can go to the nearby stormwater pond. Then we also have this kind of tractor. We call it Trash Master. It's very heavy. It weighs about 70 tons, and it has metal spikes in its wheel. So it rolls upside down on the landfill hill all day long, try to push the garbage as much as possible down. So the compactor or the Trash Master is really trying hard to push the garbage as tight as possible. But in the end of each day, we still sprinkle some dirt on top of the landfill, try to fill up the gaps between the garbage. And in the end of each week, we put another 30 centimeters of dirt. So in that way, we really pack the garbage so tight, and there's actually no oxygen in there. And no matter how hard we try to pack the garbage, let me put it this way. Because of the composting program, we managed to divert lots of organic waste out of a landfill, but there's still organic waste in there. So there's moisture in the garbage, and also the stormwater will run through the garbage and collect all those contaminants, and all those garbage juice will be accumulated at the bottom of the landfill, and that is the leachate. So building the engineer system in the landfill cell and trying to protect the groundwater, but if the leachate goes through that system, it will pollute our groundwater. So we have to monitor the level of the leachate. And the way we're doing it is we have built this yellow cylinder. I have another picture. So yellow cylinder in each landfill cell. We have multiple these yellow cylinders in different angles. And we can put the sensor down to the bottom of the landfill cell through this yellow cylinder to monitor the level of the leachate, and then pump them out once they have accumulated too much. So just to give you an idea how often we pump them out. So in summertime, we actually had to pump the leachate out every 2 days, and in wintertime, every 2 weeks. And all the leachate will be sent to the wastewater treatment plant to be treated with other cities' wastewater, then released back to the river after it's being cleaned. There's a really good video. I will send the link to the chat after the presentation. So I encourage you to watch it if you haven't yet. So in this video, you will learn a lot about how everything is working in the landfill. Now, there's the biggest myth about the landfill that people used to think, you know, everything go to the landfill will go back to the nature, like a banana peel will help a broken couch to break down then go back to the nature. But that's not what happened. We know, you know, after we pack the garbage so tightly in the landfill, we actually call it mommy's tomb. It's so tightly packed and there's no oxygen, so nothing is breaking down there. And a few years ago, we actually did dig up a very old landfill, which was closed in the 1970s. So here I'm gonna show you some of the items we discovered in that landfill. Keep in mind, all these things were buried there in the 1970s, so 45 years ago. And you can see the chicken bones are still very visible, and a jar of mayo, and it's like still very fresh, not even mold in there. And a newspaper published in 1974, and it's still readable. Imagine a newspaper like in your backyard for like a week, probably it's already breaking down. And these ones, they were buried there for 45 years. It's just and the next picture is more shocking. A bag of grass is still green. So they have been buried there for ages and they still keep in like perfect shape. What's worse about this grass in the landfill is they are taking so much room in the landfill. And as we, you know, building and maintaining landfill is very expensive and it's very precious resources for the city. So they are taking up so much space in there, and that's not good. And also, although they are not breaking down to the soil, to the compost, they are still slowly rotting. So in that process, they release greenhouse gases, and that's contributing to the climate change again. So if you have lived, I think most of you probably lived in Calgary long enough to know this campaign. We have started this campaign to leave your leaves on the ground. So if you mow the lawn, leave the grass on the ground, that's beneficial for your yard and beneficial for the environment and good for the landfills. All right, so that's about the landfills. And now we're gonna start the next chapter, the composting. Composting program we started in 2017, and this is our facility. The construction was completed in 2017, and it's a $143 million investment from the city. City owns this facility, but we contract to AIM Environmental Group to manage the operation, including the sales of the compost. So in here, this facility is an awesome facility. We labeled LEED building, excuse me. My son just came in. Sorry about that. It's a LEED building. That means we meet the highest standard of the sustainability. So we have some very cool features here. We have an electric car charging station, and the toilet is using the stormwater to flush the toilet. And we also planted some native plants around the facility, so we don't need to take care of them specifically. And we also own the largest solar park in Calgary, which contains about 11,000 solar panels and support about 1/3 of the energy consumption in the composting facility. All right, and now the composting facility, we have, well, in this map, you can see we have 9 different process, but I will break them down and show you some real pictures. In here, I'll just mention we received two different types of materials. So we receive green cut materials and biosolids. Biosolids is nutrient-rich materials we receive from the wastewater treatment plant. So any solids in the wastewater treatment plant, they dewater them. They work with bacteria, then dewater them, then they send them to us in the winter months. Because in the summer months, we do not receive biosolids in composting facility because we have enough materials from the green cut. But in winter months, as the green cut material goes down, we do receive some biosolids to make the facility still work in the full capacity. But these two different materials, they work in different separate process, same process, but in different production lines, because the end products will be sold to different buyers. Well, maybe I'll just speak a little bit more about this, because biosolids, as you can imagine, coming from the wastewater treatment plant, it's more smelly. So although it's very nutrient rich, but we only sell them to the farmers. So they are used in the farmland. And the green cut compost will be sold to the garden center, greenhouse, and also give away to Calgarians. All right, now I'm going to show you some pictures in the composting facility. And so the first area is the receiving area where we receive all the green cut materials and the biosolids. So this picture shows the first ever load of the green cut materials. As you can see, so many people were standing there because everyone was so excited to see this, and the floor was still very clean. So we received these materials in different sizes and shapes. Then all these materials will go through a shredder to be chopped into smaller pieces. That will be easier to decompose. Then they will be sent to the vessels with the front loader tractors. The vessel is so big, you can imagine it as like a massive closed black room. It's 54 meters long, 10 meters wide, and 10 meters high in each vessel. And it can contain about 1,000 tons of materials in each vessel. And we have 18 of them. So as we know that, you probably know for decomposing that there's certain conditions need to be met, like we need to have oxygen and moisture, decomposer, organic materials, and heat. So in this controlled environment, how do we meet those conditions? If you look at this picture, there's some lines on the ground. So there's so many small holes in those lines, and we inject air through those small holes. And this is our vessel blower. So through these vessel blowers, we blow the air to the vessels. And we also sprinkle water from the ceiling to the organic materials. And as the organic materials, they already have tons of bacteria within them, so we don't need to add bacteria. However, in some cases, we do add a little bit bacteria in the beginning just to initiate the process. But once it starts, we just let them do the job. And as the bacteria are decomposing, they are breaking down the materials, so they release lots of heat. And we actually, in this process, we do need the temperature to go up to 55 degrees for 3 days in order to kill all the pathogens. And they will stay in the vessel for 21 days. After 21 days, we will screen all the materials. The most common contaminants in the compost materials are like metals, rocks, plastics. So we have different mechanisms to screen them out. For the metals, we have a giant magnets that will suck up all the metals. And then for the plastics, we have this large funnel that creates like a tornado inside. So all the materials going through this funnel, light stuff like plastic will be sucked up and sent out. So all the compost materials, after being screened, they will be sent to a curing room. So through this conveyor belt, from the screening room is here, then we going through the belt and coming to the curing room. In the curing room, we use the tractor to move them, to aerate them regularly, and also we give them a little bit sprinkle of water from the ceiling to make them further decomposing here. So they will stay here for another 21 days. After that, we assume it's a final product. Then we will send the product to the lab to be tested. And in the vessel and in the curing room, obviously there will be lots of smell. The odor will be released, and if we don't do the odor control and release the air directly out, it will sink our community. So we have to do this process. We use the biofilter to absorb the odors, and the biofilter, we use the wood chips. So you can imagine like an ocean of wood chips. These wood chips in the picture, actually they are 2 meters high, so very massive, huge quantity. And after they have absorbed the odors, they will be exhausted, so they are all soaked up. And for those wood chips, we just rotate, we just replace them. Then we move those wood chips to the receiving area and then mix with the biosolids, then go through the composting process. So nothing goes waste in the composting facility. And this is a lab. After we have done the test, make sure all the, or our compost meet the category A standard. And that's the highest standard for compost. Then we can sell those compost. So we rolled out the composting program in 2007. And this figure here demonstrates in the same year, from July to October, how the amount of the materials in black cart and the green cart changed. So you can see the amount of the black cart materials dropped significantly while the green cart materials picked up. And this also this green cart material surpassed the black cart material in September. So that's also in the fall, that's when we receive most of the green cart materials, because people are collecting leaves and stuff. Okay, so for the same year, 2017, so this figure demonstrates how it would look like if we didn't have the green cart program. So our black cart materials will be this much. But because of the green cart program, this is how much we received in the black cart material. All right, so what goes to the green cart? All the food scrap and the yard waste, including the pet litter. However, for the pet litter, for the other food scrap and yard waste, you can just dump them directly to the green cart. But for the pet litter, we do request the people to put them in certified compostable bags or paper bags before they put them in the green cart. This is because this is to prevent the potential pathogen spread around during the transportation. So we do not. Please do not use any plastic bags. It is very difficult for for us to clean them, and they will contaminate in the compost, including biodegradable bags. There's a myth about biodegradable bags. People used to think they are very environmentally friendly, but actually many of them are made of plastics. So when they break down to very tiny pieces of plastics, and it's difficult to get rid of. And so always look for this logo, certified compostable bags, or simply you don't use anything, just dump them in the green cart, or you use newspaper to wrap them. So when we put the food scrap in the green cart, sometimes we also receive the packaging that comes with the food. So we need to really separate these two things. Only the organic waste go to the green cart. And never put the plastic cutlery, plates, cups, straws in the green cart, even when they are labeled compostable. Right now in the market, there's a lot of compostable plastic products out there. Theoretically, they can be compostable, but in order to decompose them, it requires a higher temperature and a longer process, which we cannot meet in our composting facility. That's why in our program, we do not accept this kind of products. But in some commercial programs, they have different decomposing process. They are able to decompose those products. So that's why in some, like festival events, you see the organizers, they are able to get those compostable cups and send them to the commercial composting facility. So that's different scenario. And no clothing and the textile. So even it's 100% cotton, for the same reason, to decompose them, it requires more, more heat, higher temperature, and a longer process, and we cannot meet that condition. All right, no personal hygiene product, no treated wood. Now, the third chapter, recycling. So the recycling program, the city collect the recyclable materials from your blue card and send to the Cascades material recovering facility, which is the facility, a private facility, and the city doesn't own that facility. We are in contract with them. So we deliver the materials and they sort the materials. Here's another very good video to show you how everything works in that facility. Again, I will send the link in the chat box in a bit. So, we all know how the recycling is working. So we put the items in the blue cart, and then the trucks come to collect them and send to the recycling facility. After being sorted, different recyclable materials will be sent to different places, and then the final product will go to the retail store. And in this chart, it shows it gives you an idea where different recyclable materials are going. So I'm happy to share that most of the recyclable materials are actually just traveling within North America. Some just very few items will go to the international market. So that's actually better because that means less transportation mileage and less carbon emissions and more environmental friendly. All right, for the full list of the recyclable we accept in the blue card, you can find that in the website, calgary.ca/waste. Here, I'm just gonna talk about a few items, very typical ones. So the plastics, there's always a debate, what kind of plastics can be recycled and how, what's the right way to recycle them. So do a stretchable test at home if you have doubt about the plastic. So if it's stretchable, then it's recyclable. On the other hand, if it's not stretchable, like wrapping packaging for the granola bar or the chips, those are made of mixed materials. You cannot stretch them and they cannot be recycled. So for any plastic that can be stretched, you can recycle them. However, we want people to bundle them. So the reason is very simple, because in the recycling facility, we mostly rely on the machine to help us sort the materials. And when we have single plastic flying around, it's actually very bad for the production line, and it can jam the production line and also cause a lot of problems. So we ask people to bundle them, so we have our workers can pull them out manually. For the same reason, we ask people to put shredded paper in the bag as well. So those are the two recyclable materials we will, as the workers will sort them out manually. And other stuff, we just ask you to put them loosely in the blue cart. And any container packaging made of plastics with a symbol, recyclable symbol, and there's a number 1 to 7, any of those can be recycled. And the food cans and foil and glasses, yes, they are all good. And keep them loose in the blue cart and let us sort them. So that means don't put them in plastic bags, especially, you mix the different recyclable materials, you put in a bag. But the fact is, in the sorting facilities, the workers are not allowed to open the bags just for the safety reason, because we never know what's in the bag. So they are not allowed to open it. So all these recyclable materials, they are packed very well, but unfortunately, we will have to send them to the landfill. So make your effort count if you already, are recycling. So don't put them in the bag. We want all the materials to be clean, empty, and dry. So if you have food remaining in there, try as much as you can to remove the food remaining, because we don't want, whole chunk of food there, and they create moisture, and they will get moldy, and they will contaminate other recyclable materials. Of course, you don't have to wash them as shiny as in this picture, but just try to remove most of the stuff. All right, some items we do not accept, no loose bags, no mixed materials, no household hazardous waste. This I'll talk more in a bit. And no household items. Yeah, a lot of people, think, oh, this household item is still usable, I can recycle it in the blue card. It doesn't work that way, because we, in the recycling facility, all our system to, the machines, they identify the recyclable materials by the size and the shape that we, entered previously. So, for example, the irregular shape of the plastic wouldn't be recognized there, and then they will end up in the landfill. So the same as these household items, they cannot be recycled in our facility. No calories, no styrofoam. Styrofoam is an interesting one, because I know in some municipalities they do have programs to recycle styrofoam, and actually it's also a hot topic in the city that has been discussed for a long time. How and when can we start this program to recycle styrofoam? But what I can tell you right now is we still don't have a program in place. So at the moment, all the styrofoam still has to go to the black card. And if you have a container with the food in there and it's too hard to wash it, if you cannot wash it, then just throw it in the black card. Don't put it in the blue card. It will contaminate other recyclables and cause the whole container not recyclable. And then no clothing and textiles. All right, and for the food, the metal jars, lids, and plastic lids, well, this one you really have to see the size, just because, well, the material itself can be recycled, but if it's too small, it will force through our conveyor belt, and then we cannot recycle them. So what we usually tell people is, if something, if a lid is smaller than the palm of your hand, then don't put it in the blue card. All right, pizza boxes. That's like a question forever for a lot of people. Not only pizza boxes, and any food containers like made of paper, like your takeout containers or paper wrappers and paper bags. It's all the same principle applied to all those things. So if pizza box is, it just touched with the pizza a little bit, staying here and there, it's okay to put it in the blue card, unless you have like a big accident there, like all the sauce or the soil and all the sauce like everywhere in the pizza box, then you can put that in the green card. All right, so this is an example of what happened when people put the wrong items in the blue card. So apparently this is a lot of water hoses. And so water hose is tangled with other recyclable materials, and this will cause a stop of our production line, and it might take hours until we get them sorted. And in these hours, all the materials, recyclable materials, will be backed out in the receiving area. Imagine in a rainy day or in a snowy day, when the new trucks come in, they couldn't unload the materials in the receiving area. They will have to wait outside. Then all the materials got wet, and those materials will not be able to recycled. Then they will send directly to the landfill. So sending the wrong items in the blue card can really cause a lot of damage. And sometimes we also receive like dangerous items, like sharp household items or propane tanks, and that can be dangerous for the workers working there. Now, some examples about what is going wrong in these pictures. So all these cardboards, they are recyclable materials. But what goes wrong here is they are too big to fit in our blue card. So you cannot close the lid. When you cannot close the lid, it's bad. And look at the surrounding in this picture. It's a snowy day, so it's winter. And the snow might get in the blue card and make everything wet. Then again, the whole cart of materials will be spoiled. And what worse is when the collection truck collects this cart, and it might spoil the entire streets. The recyclable materials we collected for the entire street will go to the landfill. And this one, there's several things done wrong in this one. So first we can say there's a noodle package in there that's made of mixed material that cannot be recycled. And secondly, everything was packed in a bag. Then thirdly, the lid was not closed. So out of 3 bins, blue bin is really the one we want people to always, close the lid. So if you are not able to close the lid, then consider to load the stuff in 2 loads, like 2 weeks, or if you have something too big, then consider to bring them to the community recyclable depot instead of your blue card. Yeah, some wrong examples. And this one is very typical. A lot of people think, I have these household items, they are still usable, and hoping someone will pick them up. Well, people will do if you send them to the right place, for example, like secondhand store or charity, then people will reuse them and extend the life cycle of these items. But if you put them in the blue card, they are just gonna go to the landfill. And cart placement. So basically, we want people to put everything in the bin loosely, and then you set out the cart. Like you need to have half a meter in between the cart, so the truck can load, unload those things. If you have extra waste, here's some solutions for the extra waste. For the green card, you can always use a paper bag and put it next to your green card, and make sure you have half a meter between them. And extra recycling, you can always use community recycling depot. And if you have extra garbage, right now we have this program called Tag a Bag. You can pay $3 to get a tag, and then place your extra garbage next to your black card. You can buy this tag in Circle K and the Co-op. And I was also told it's coming to Superstore soon. But I always recommend people, when you have extra garbage, first talk to your neighbors. If your neighbor has some room in their black card, try to use that before you start to, reach out to get a tag. All right, so after all these things we have done, and we already know we halved the black card materials already, but what's left in the black card? We did an audit, like a waste audit in 2019, and this is what we found out. In that waste, there's still about half of them is food and yard waste. and 16% was that materials you can put in the blue card, and 11% was something you could recycle in different programs. And then finally, about 28% was the actual garbage. So there's still room to improve. And the city does this waste audit every 3-4 years. So I think maybe 2023, we will do another round of waste audit. And I'm very curious to see what we will have by then. So for the electronic items, the provincial government has a program to recycle them, and you can always check the newest, the updated information in this website. We have 3 collection sites in 3 of our landfills. So if you have like a TV or microwave you want to get rid of, you can always come to the landfill to dispose them. And there's also some other places you can find out online. Okay, clothing and textiles. We talked about how bad they are to our green card and the blue card, but do they really belong to the black card? Not necessarily. There's lots of programs in town that accept used clothing for the different purposes. So you can consider donate to those causes. Like you can probably find this kind of clothes collection bin in outside the shopping mall or gas station. However, most of those programs only accept the good clothes that can be sold and can be reused. If you have a damaged clothes or just a textile you want to get rid of, you can, bring them to the landfill. In the throw and go area, we do have a different type of clothes collection bin. We work with Goodwill, and they collect the damaged clothing, and then they will send those clothing and textile to manufacturers to be produced to new like household items. And okay, I have a separate page about household hazardous waste. That means anything dangerous for the environment and for human health. So those things should never go to any of the 3 bins, like propane tanks, paint, used oil, that kind of stuff. So there are 9 locations in town you can drop them off. In 3 of the landfills in the throw and go areas, you can always drop them off. And also we have 6 gas stations, 6 fire stations in town. You can drop them off. You can call 311 to find out the closest location for your house and just drop them off there. Throw and go is a very interesting area. So anything that doesn't fit in your 3 bins, you can bring them to throw and go. That means, some special items like tires, electronics, clothing, metal, household hazardous waste, and also oversized garbage. For example, if you have a broken couch, which cannot fit in your black card, you can bring them to throw and go and dump them there. All right, some information. If you want to find out the bin collection schedules in your area, you can install an app on your cell phone, which is called Garbage Day. So that will remind you like the collection schedule in your area, and you can always call 311 to find out. Then we also have a resource on our website called What Goes Where. So for something, if you are not sure where you should put that item, you can go check it out. And it's actually providing really accurate search result. And I always use that tool to help me identify where to throw something. All right, now it's holiday season. A reminder about food, meal planning and present preparation and wrapping. So always keep in mind like how we can do this more environmental friendly. And if we have food scrapped, and always put them in the green cart. All right, and finally, I'm taking you back to this upside down triangle and hoping we can reach this target like really soon. An example from our waste and recycling office, we have a regular size of green cart and the blue cart, and then we have a really tiny black cart here. This is just how deep we want to go for reducing the waste. Just to share this with you. And some resources for you to spread around. So for the waste and recycling education team, we do lots of community activities like public presentations and landfill tour, and we have school programs, also programs for new Canadians, and we go to trade shows, events to talk to people. So if you know anyone or any organizations would like to have these services, call 311 and book with us. All right, that is all about my presentation. Now, if you have questions, I see there's some questions already in the chat. Now I'm opening the floor to take questions.
Thank you very much, Yanyu. It was a great presentation, a lot of information. People know that, but tend to forget. But more of these presentations or some letting people know these facts will help. I know in my family, I have seen sandwich boxes in the green bins and all that. And yeah, leave that alone. Let's start. Hugh will give a small talk on the presentation, thanking and what we do. Okay, the question, I wonder what percentage of the blue cart material ends up in the landfill for whatever reason. I'm thinking it is quite high. That is Richard.
Actually, surprisingly, it's only 2 to 5% of the green cart materials are contaminants. Because I think we get this figure because it's calculated by weight, and a lot of the contaminants are plastics and they are very light. So we do receive, so although I say it's only 2 to 5% of the materials are contaminants, but they actually, they might cause lots of problems there.
Okay. Sorry, I started the questions from the bottom, go back to the top. This is from Hugh. Biosolids only treated in winter when the green carts have reduced feed volume. Your schematic showed 2 separate treatment, yellow and green streams. Question, is the yellow stream used to treat green cart feedstock in the summer?
Yes. The short answer is yes.
Okay.
And I would like to expand a little bit about the biosolids, because biosolids, it has been used for the farmland long before we had the green cart program. So they actually, in the past, the biosolids that will be directly sent to the to the farmland and be used directly. Actually, it's used in the Shepherd Lagoon. It's really close to the composting facility. And since we started the composting program, obviously it will help us to pick up the production in wintertime, but also going through the composting process, it produces a higher quality compost than the raw materials in the farmland. So it's a win-win for both. Yeah.
Okay. Wood chips used to absorb smells or odor controlled are fed into the composting stream. Do the odors not recycle out again, or are the odors absorbed into the compost permanently?
I'm not sure if I understand this question, because you mean like because we use those wood chips that's already soaked with the odors, and we.
Okay, Hugh, do you want to explain that?
Yes, just briefly, you mentioned that the wood chips, after they've absorbed all the odors, is then fed back into the front end of the composting process. So I was wondering how do you ensure those odors don't come out again? That's my
Right.
question.
Right. So the yeah, this is really an interesting question. Actually, I have not encountered this question before, but I would imagine, the odors are also bacteria. So when the wood chips absorb those bacteria and they will be used in to mix with biosolid and go through the process again, then again in the vessel and also in the curing area, some of those bacteria will be killed in the vessel, I can imagine, and then the new odor created through those processes will be again absorbed by the new wood chips.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
No,
Then it's all.
Yeah, I understand.
Then
Thank
it's
you.
all like in a closed cycle. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay. Okay, the next one is Sally to everyone. Where are the wood chips sourced from?
Yeah, so yeah, that was one of the questions I asked the management when I started this job. So this is really interesting. We do have different providers in in Calgary and Calgary. So there's like a farm, they grow willows, particularly for making wood chips for us. So those they will mill those wood and then provide us the wood chips. And the interestingly, we also provide the biosolid. The city provide biosolid for those farmers to produce those wood chips. Then the wood chips will go back to be mixed with biosolid, working in the composting facility. Then again, it's a closed cycle. And it's very interesting how they manage to make everything work in that way.
Good. This next one is from Dave. Thank you for an excellent presentation. Have you done a cost-benefit analysis to compare savings in landfill costs versus costs of the recycling systems?
I think to interpret this question, you mean like for some of the items that we had to dump in the landfill, would that no, sorry, I am a little bit lost here. So cost benefit, and let's compare savings in landfill cost. Savings from what? From having the recyclable materials out of the landfill, or
and like compare savings in landfill cost versus cost of recycling system. Instead of putting it in the recycling system, in the okay, I'll let Dave to hear.
Yeah, maybe Dave, you can explain a little bit this question.
Yes, I think that there are many benefits that can't be costed. For example, you use much less land in the landfills, presumably, and the landfills will probably last many years longer. I was just wondering if there's any monetary savings, for example, in the operations of the landfills versus the money you spend operating the various recycling systems.
Right.
Does it?
Yeah, I say it's a very, yeah, it's an interesting question. I'd say it will probably more complex than I can explain. But no, I do not have a direct answer for this. But what I imagine is just think about it like in a way, building a landfill cell, it costs about $1 or $2 million. And then there's also continuous cost to monitor it. So it is very expensive to operate a landfill, and also the space is limited. How much can we expand the landfills, right? So that's why we try to divert them divert the waste away from the landfill, and then keeping those materials in a circular economy to be recycled and reproduced. Not only saving the land or the precious space in the landfill, but also it saves energy to mine those things from the raw materials, or from the mountain to clear cut the forest to mine some precious metal. Try to recycle is always good. So I'm sure like people have done that math, and even from the ethical perspective, sometimes you have to pay more in order to live more sustainably. But if you want to know the exact number, I think I don't know like who can directly answer this question, but you can always try 311, and they will navigate you to the right person. It's probably faster to get an answer.
Well, thank you. Of course, reducing everything to cost benefit is overly simplistic, and there are many qualitative benefits, of course, that you've pointed out. Thank you.
Okay, I think there's one more question. I wonder Richard. I wonder what percentage of blue card material ends up in the landfill for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it is quite high. You might have covered it in the presentation, but if you could.
Yeah, I can address this. This is a really good question. Actually, now in the winter months, I always tell people about this. So it's about 15 to 20% of the blue card materials will end up in the landfill, for various reasons. For example, in November, we had the heavy snowfall, and for that week, probably you remember that so much snow, and in that week it's particularly bad for our recyclable materials. Different scenarios. So, for example, if people didn't close the lid, the snow get in there, and then we collect that materials, then it got all those materials wet in the entire truck. Then probably that truck will have to go straight to the landfill, because when it's mixed, when the paper, particular paper mixed with snow, it becomes it's like a soup kind of stuff. Then it makes the production line very difficult to proceed. So we ended up spending lots of time, stop the production line, clean up everything, and then it's becoming just not doable. Then the entire truck just goes straight to the landfill. So that happens a lot in the winter, especially. So that's why we always tell people, if you can try to remove the snow from the lid, and then always try to close the lid and do everything you can. Or even just if that week is very bad with snow, you can save the blue card for one more week. Then next week, roll it out. So just to avoid those situations. Then I think a couple of years ago, some of you might still remember, like maybe I think 2018-17, when China closed the market for the plastic internationally. So China used to be our biggest market for the plastic recyclables, but they have raised the standard for the recyclable materials. Then basically that made it impossible for any international traders to sell to them anymore. So in that couple of years, while we were trying to find new buyers, all the plastic materials were stored in storage somewhere in Calgary. We have rented so many storage places for those recyclables. And some of the materials, because people maybe kept the food in there, or maybe it's not dry, so the moisture is in there, and then they create lots of mold, and then they contaminate the large amount of the recyclables. So, and even before we found the new buyers, you know, a lot of those storage had to dump a lot of those recyclable materials just because of the contamination. So yeah, stuff like that did happen. So that makes our number a little bit high, about 15 to 20% go to the landfill.
I think we are running out of time. There are several people thank you and you for the great presentation. And Richard, again, I think focus on education in schools is great, as I think the younger generation view recycling differently from the older folks. I have my doubts about it, looking at my family. Whatever they learn in school is only in the school they are good. When they come home, they are different. Anyhow, thank you very much, Yanyu. I got one more question. In the slide, you said that we can call 311 and book an appointment for visits to the sites. Is that true? When I spoke with Michelle, she said, no, it's only for schools. Can you tell us where our group wants to go?
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe we do need to clarify that.
Yeah.
So for the facility visits, yeah. So if Michelle told you it's only for schools, I don't want to oppose to that.
Okay.
I'll look into it. Maybe I'll get back to you when I have more information.
Sure, please. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think quite a few of us would like to go and bring our families as well.
Yeah, because from what I understood is the organizations need to provide their own bus. So that means you have to arrange your own bus and you need to have certain amount of people. Then you can book with us.
Oh yeah, we can find our own way
Yeah.
to get there, but as long
Yeah.
as we are
I'll
allowed
follow
to
up
do
with
that.
you about that one.
Okay, thank you very much, Yanyu. Again, I'll leave it to Hugh to say a few words. Thank you. Take it away, Hugh.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Yanyu, thank you very much indeed for a very informative presentation this evening and answering all our awkward questions. I must say I'm impressed with the communications that come out of your department that come with the NMAX bills and other things, because they're always very clear with respect to what to do with various waste products. So I think I'm a bit more optimistic than Thatchy is. I do think that there's a lot of young people who are very focused on trying to improve the planet, etc. So I'm optimistic that with learnings and making sure that people know the cost of the mistakes that they're making, that we will both from a cost point of view and an ethical point of view focus on better sustainability. But as a closure, I would like to just mention that the Calgary Prairie's group of chartered engineers, we donate some funds to the Operation Eyesight for in lieu of sort of giving you a present, but we will get a certificate and we will forward that with your name on it to you. So offline, we'll get your address and we'll follow that up. But once again, thank you very much indeed for giving us your knowledge and time this evening. And with that, I'm stopping the recording.